Welcome to Two Guys and a Mic podcast. I'm your host, Jason Thompson, and most magnificent and illustrious
So Michael Vincent here.
And we have a special guest tonight, Mr. Phil Barrett from the town of Clifton Park.
How we doing, guys?
Hello,
Good, how
Mr.
are you,
Barrett.
Phil?
Good to see you again.
We wanted to bring Phil back in here to do kind of a follow-up on some pretty cool stuff in Saratoga County. The roundabout that's going in, the Bass Pro Shop, as well as maybe touch on the racetrack that we talked about earlier, and also some new stuff. We kind of wanted to bring up some of the obviously national politics going on with Phil. So without further ado, let's dive into it. Hi, Michael. How are you?
I'm doing great, Jason. Doing great. I'm loving this heat.
Oh, God, we were just talking about this before. I'm
Don't
like
get 'em
dying.
going. Don't
I
get
am
'em
dying
going.
of heat here, and you guys are like, "This is great." It's not great. It's really hot.
You know, he was castigating me for wearing a sports
I
coat.
don't know how you do it.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
I don't know how you do it. It just goes to show politicians have thick skin.
They do.
Some do, some don't.
I'm sure I could never be a politician. Obviously, look at Larry sweating up a storm now. So, but so what's the updates on the Bass Pro? 'Cause I can't wait for that thing to open. So, what are you hearing? What's going on?
Well, I think the last time I was here, they were just just asked to get on the
planning committee
the
I think.
schedule
Yeah.
for final approval from the planning board. I think
Yeah.
that's where we left
Yes.
off. But anyway, so they did make that request after they went through a lengthy process with another agency that
Sure.
outside of the town of Clifton Park. Because I think, as I explained the last time I was here, there's many agencies that need to approve projects. Town of Clifton Park is one, but there's others involved. So once they finished that process with the other agency, they came forward, asked to be on the agenda for final approval. They had already received preliminary approval from the planning board. They did receive the final approval and began site work. So
Nice.
It's in motion.
That's great.
I love
Yeah.
it. I can't wait. That's actually one of my favorite stores. Well, it's a double-edged sword for me because Bass Pro Shop was always one of those places where wherever we went away, we went to Bass Pro. You know, it was, it was like kind of like a destination on a vacation, and now it's going to be in my backyard.
Right.
So I don't know how. I don't know.
So take a little bit of that special.
I think
feeling
so.
away
It's
from
like Chick-fil-A. You know, I couldn't wait to go and find a Chick-fil-A someplace, and now it's like I think I've been there once. So disappointed.
But you couldn't have waited to get there. You were like, I gotta go.
Oh yeah, I used to drive to Springfield just to have lunch.
Well, you better save up because you have about a year. Save your money, and then you can go splurge at Bass Pro.
Okay.
Well,
How's that?
there you go. I think that's a good idea.
It's gonna take about a year.
Is that how long it's gonna take?
Yeah, about a year. Yeah.
So what? Just so people that don't understand, just obviously a quick, like almost like a timeline. How does something like that come to fruition? So, Bass Pro Shop obviously looks for a location. They find a location. They pick the old site of Bill Cass Chevrolet.
Right.
So from that point, how does it go from, hey, we want that site to a shovel in the ground? What are all the steps that they have to do to go through that? I think that'd be a pretty interesting thing to figure out because we always think, it's easy. We'll just put a shovel in the ground and start building. But obviously that's not the case.
No, there's a lot of steps involved. You know, in this case, what they want to do, build a Bass Pro store, fit zoning. So if the zoning is already set, you're in good shape as an applicant. So they come right into the planning board and they get right down to site plan approval. Now, there's a lot that goes into that.
They have to show plans. And
all their engineering plans.
conform to all local codes.
Yeah, they have to meet all the local codes and the New York State codes because every municipality, whether it's Clifton Park, Half Moon, Waterford, we all enforce the New York State code. And I know people sometimes get frustrated with some of the things that are in the code. Well, it's not always the code that we make up. It's the code that we have to enforce that is uniform across the state in many ways.
Right.
I will say I hate codes, by the way.
Yeah. So they, so once that is a lengthy process, and they do have to go through a lot of steps. Stormwater is a big thing now. A lot of new regulations over the years just in stormwater, how stormwater is handled,
drainage ponds,
and
holding
drainage.
fields,
Exactly. So Wetlands issues, they continue to tighten those regulations. So there's more regulations than ever in New York State, but as long as you fit the zoning, at least you can go right to site plan and get moving. As far as the courting process, they had been looking in the general area for a number of years.
I want to say, wasn't that one time they were looking to put something up exit 12 when that complex?
Cabela's,
Yeah,
back when Cabela's
okay.
was still around. Yes, exit 12. That was many years
Because I think
ago.
they almost thought about putting a NASCAR racetrack up there at one time. Well, there was talks about.
Well, there was rumors that NASCAR
Yeah.
was looking at a track up there. I'm not sure that was ever
Sure.
a real thing.
Yeah.
I remember. I was so excited. That would have been great.
Yeah. So they had been looking in the area for years. Yeah, going back to Cabela's, possibly going to exit 12. They had looked around different spots, and then because they wanted to be here, and we wanted them to be here, and then when that spot opened, because it's right on the Northway, all large stores love that.
It's a big draw.
Well,
They've got the
they love
exposure.
the visibility
Yeah,
from
oh, yeah.
major interstates. That's something that they all look for.
Yeah.
They had looked at other spots in Clifton Park, and actually a couple of spots got pretty far along in the process, but when a real estate person comes in and says, no, not enough visibility from the Northway, for instance, that could kill a deal right there. And in one instance it did. So
And what's nice with Clifton Park is, obviously, an old dealership is sometimes hard to redevelop, because it's one of those things. It's a big lot. It's nice that you were able to turn that around relatively quick, because Bill Cash only been down there 2-3 years. If that even.
It was Mohawk after Bill Cash Chevrolet. Yeah, so it had been a dealership
A
for
long
decades.
time.
Yeah,
North Star Chevrolet, then Bill Cash North Star Chevrolet, then Mohawk Honda.
right.
Mohawk Chevrolet, I mean. So it's nice, but what was nice is that it was able to transition relatively quick into a new developed parcel, which I like that.
Well, I was confident that we've done so much to fill all of the empty stores, fill all the empty retail space in Exit 9 over the last 20 years. And because it's become increasingly popular and successful, and that parcel, although you're right, it's rather large, it's right on the Northway. So you take all of that into account, I was pretty confident we'd get a good tenant there, and it was a perfect spot as far as Bass Pro's concerned. And work has started, so
That's
we'll
awesome.
start the countdown.
Yeah.
What is the plan for the 99 restaurant building?
Nothing yet.
Nothing yet?
Nothing concrete. There's been
Not
some
to throw
things.
that at you. I was just curious because
Oh yeah,
about
yeah.
that area.
No, nothing concrete. There's been some ideas that have been tossed around, but nothing finalized yet that I know of. So,
Yeah. Nice.
yeah.
And in that corridor, I think Mike brought it up. This getting a roundabout over there.
Yeah.
Talk to us about that.
Yeah, so we've made a lot of improvements in the Sitterly Rd corridor. We worked with the town of Half Moon on a large project that included traffic intersection improvements at Wooden Road and the Crossings Boulevard. We also added some sidewalks in there by NYOH in that area. So it's been a great improvement for traffic flow and pedestrian access in that area. Going further down towards Clifton Park, of course, we had that terrible accident where the truck hit the overpass, and so we have a brand new bridge there now. That was quite a multi-year issue that we dealt with there.
I'm sure the insurance company was not happy about that.
Yeah. We had nothing to do with repayment, so I don't know how that all washed out. But yeah, that was a hefty payment somewhere. So that's done, and now we as part of the planning for that area, we wanted to enhance the intersection at Stewart's and Clifton Park Center. Both with traffic flow and again with pedestrian access. So now we're going to have sidewalks connecting from the bridge down all the way down Clifton Park Center to Hollandale. So that'll be a nice pedestrian connection there. And then the roundabout at Clifton Park Center and Sitterly Road will be a great traffic enhancement. So on both accounts, we're very pleased that our idea that turned into a project has now been approved for funding. So it's a big win for the town.
Now, who pays for that? The town or the DOT?
It's state and federal funds, but we work with our funding partners, mainly DOT. So we work with them directly on the funding, the planning, the procurement, and then ultimately the construction.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to
That's
talk
great.
about the racetrack, I believe.
Yeah. So we did touch on the racetrack last time.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
is there any new updates on that?
The only thing new I know about that is I had heard that there was going to be a public workshop on the project that's proposed for the Speedway property later this month. That has since been canceled, from what I'm told.
Okay.
Really?
And there's not another date set right now, as far as I know. So the public meeting that was scheduled has been canceled, and as anybody that's following that issue, I would just keep my ear close to the ground, watch the Malta Town website, and see if there is another meeting set at some point in the future.
What does that usually mean when they cancel a meeting? That everything's on hold, or
Was it developers that canceled it, or is it Malta cancels it?
That I don't know.
Okay.
That I don't. I'm not directly involved, so I don't know why. I did attend not the last town board meeting, but 2 town board meetings ago. There was standing room only. There was an overflow attendance at the Malta Town board meeting. Many people there to support the Speedway. And then others were there to talk about how they just don't like the project itself.
what was this the one where the developer kind of came in and wasn't expected to make a whole presentation, and some of the board members were like, "What are you doing here? This is not what we expected here tonight," and kind of
No, I wasn't at that one, but that's the reporting that came out.
Okay.
I did watch that meeting, and that's how you're portraying it
Yeah.
is true.
I think 2 of the board members were like, "This is not the time and the place for this. We don't want to hear it. We're not ready for this," and we're rather
Well,
disgusted at the way the developer brought it up without having any agenda space on the meeting for it, I guess.
Well, yeah, every meeting has public privilege where people can get up and talk about anything involving the town, whether it's Malta, Clifton Park, or any other
Pretty
municipality.
expensive thing to just bring up.
And typically, you don't give presentations on proposed projects at public privilege.
Yeah.
That's correct. Because there's always a time limit. Most places have a 3-minute time limit. We have a 5-minute time limit in Clifton Park. I don't recall what Malta is. But, so there were a number of speakers at public privilege. There was nothing on the agenda regarding the Speedway, but people did show up to show their support for the Speedway and or just objections with the project itself. And it was an overflow crowd. Several people did speak. So it was an interesting meeting. I give Councilman McLaughlin and Ricky and Warner a lot of credit. Starting with Mr. McLaughlin, he came right out and said, generally we need to pump the brakes, as he said, on development. Because there's been a lot of projects approved in Malta and many others that have been
No
forthcoming.
pun intended, right?
Well, exactly. Yeah, I thought that was good.
I'm sure he picked those words.
Yeah, he's a smart guy,
Yeah,
so I'm sure
yeah.
he did. So I give him a lot of credit for making that statement. And Councilman Ritchie, Councilman Warner did support that idea of pumping the brakes on development and taking the second look. And since that time, the Gazette did a Sunday article and talked to me about kind of where Malta is now and where Clifton Park was at any one time, and steps that we took to make sure that we're prepared for the future with regard to development and trying to just have a good complement between development and the open space and parks and the many farms that we've all had in our municipalities at one time. So, in the town of Clifton Park, over the last 20 years, we've permanently preserved over 2,000 acres of property and four farms as well. So we've been very aggressive to add to our parks and recreational network, and the county started an open space planning process a couple of years after we did in Clifton Park in the early 2000s. The county has permanently preserved over 6,000 acres of property. So you don't see that. You know, you see it. You drive by a parcel that's being developed. You see the development. You drive by a parcel that's not being developed. You may not even know that it's protected.
Sure.
So one stands out more than the other.
Well, it's always been kind of like a double-edged sword for me, where as much as I like to see the commercialization of property and new buildings and industry coming in, you know, we also like our parks and our green space and clean air, and so it's a fine line. You know, it's as a municipality and government, you gotta kind of straddle the fence on both sides because you need both.
Well,
To
yeah.
make the community work properly.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you can go many areas where they love a little traffic. Most of New York State would love a little traffic, love a little action in their communities. You know, everybody wants low taxes. Everybody wants well-funded schools, and they also want to make sure that they live in a place where at least they have an idea as to what the taxes would be year to year, that they won't see any huge, 10, 15% increases in a given year just out of the blue. That's not going to happen here. And there's a lot of reasons for that. It's good, sound financial management, but it's also striking that balance, bringing in our case in Clifton Park, more commercial tax base. So our focus has been more on the commercial tax base and trying to redevelop properties that were empty or had buildings that were empty on them, I should say.
Get them generating again.
Yeah, get those back being contributors to our economy again. So that's been our focus, and thankfully it's worked out. Bass Pro's just the latest example. And it's, like I think I told you the last time I was here, per the New York State Controller, we rank almost last in taxes for towns in New York State in Clifton Park. So, so there's a balance, but at the same time, we've added many new parks and nature preserves. So it's all been going together on a perpendicular path, and I think it's worked out great.
Yeah, I like that.
Great.
I like that. I'm going to ask you something kind of, I know you didn't prepare for this stuff, but
Sure.
something came up in the conversation with a friend of ours today. And what does the town know, or what do you know specifically, obviously, about floodplain management?
Floodplain management. Well, we the other thing we've tried. Yeah, go ahead.
The reason, just to give you
Yep.
context, is a friend of ours in a local municipality was approached by a DEC, and his property is in a floodplain.
Yeah.
He was given a CO by a town to have his business there for years.
Yeah.
And now the DEC shows up and says, "Well, you're not conforming. You don't have the proper permitting, so you're in violation." Well, we're trying to figure out. Point is, how do municipalities tackle the issues of government coming in, changing rules, and then looking to go back several years on people's properties to make them conform? How do towns manage that with the ever changing way government does stuff?
Yeah,
Unfunded mandates, stuff like that.
Hard for me to comment on that specific
Generally.
situation without
specific.
knowing more specifics.
Yeah.
But as I said before, stormwater, wetlands, the regulations continue to tighten, and it all depends on when you received your approvals to do certain things. I would think if they had already received approvals to develop that property,
20 years ago.
that there wouldn't be any look back as to what they would have to do. But again, I
Yeah.
without knowing all the specifics, it's
I
hard
didn't know
to
if you had
say.
something similar like that in the town of Clifton Park.
Not that I can think of.
Okay.
But the wetland maps do change as regulations get more strict. So there are people that have owned property for a very long time, and what they can do with it today is far different than what they could have done with it 30 years ago.
Sure.
So
But if
maybe that's
But if they
part
already
of
have
what
an
you're-
established structure, they can't be told to take the structure down, correct?
That seems rather extreme. I'd be surprised about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was just my question. I didn't mean to broadside you on
Yeah,
something like
no,
that,
not
but it
at
was a friend of mine is kind of like between a rock and a hard place, and the town doesn't seem to know what they're doing. It's not Clifton Park, don't worry. But the town doesn't seem to know what they're doing. The DEC is kind of throwing it back in the town's feet, and he's stuck in the middle trying to figure out what to do with his business. So I was hoping that maybe on the floodplain management side you could shed some light, but obviously it's an ambiguous elephant in the room that nobody seems to know what to do with it. And I was hoping to get a little insight on to give him a little bit of.
Well, what may have happened is, like I said, we've had people come in and they think their land, they can do X with their land, and then they realize regulations and the wetland maps and everything else have changed over the last 10, 20, 30 years. Suddenly they realize, wow, my expectations were way too high based on how things have changed.
Sure.
And they just didn't have that knowledge of what was changing until they got to the point where they said, wow, now I'm ready to do something. But taking down structures that were legally constructed, that sounds a little extreme. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, do you want to delve into the national stuff?
It might as well.
Because you love this guy. So.
Yes, I do. So, did you happen to watch the presidential debate?
I saw some of it, yeah.
Okay. And what did you come away with on that?
Well, it really wasn't a surprise.
Yeah.
I think if anybody was surprised, then, they haven't been paying much attention. Obviously, the president has had some issues with cognitive abilities and speaking at times. And so none of that was a surprise. But I will say, depending on what you read and watch, there's a lot that goes on in this country you have no idea that's actually happening. So I think it was a surprise to a lot of people.
I think the problem is the media sheltered him and his gaffes so much. And that's what we talked about the last debate, is if you're somebody who was unengaged and this was your first time watching Joe Biden in a long time, you're going to come out of this saying, holy crap, what is going on here?
Yeah. Yeah, I guarantee you there was a lot of people that were actually surprised by it.
Right.
But again, if you only watch certain channels, you would never see this.
Right. Everything's been filtered.
Yeah, because Mad Cow definitely thinks he's still great.
Oh, yeah.
Rachel Mad Cow.
Yeah. I think we.
He has a lot of cheerleaders. He lost George Clooney today, though.
I heard that.
So if you lose George Clooney, just
the
had
Hollywood
a fundraiser
domino
for him
effect,
a couple of weeks ago, and now he's.
Well, actually, at that debate, he had to get ushered off the stage by Barack Obama.
Yeah.
I still say
not the first time either.
It's elder abuse, is what that is. What? Who do you think Trump is going to pick as his VP?
Boy, it's always difficult to tell with Trump.
Mike has one he likes.
A lot of people have been saying Marco Rubio, but if I had to guess, I don't think Marco. I don't think it's going to be him. Yeah. No, I don't think.
As much as I think Marco Rubio's smart and he's knowledgeable, he has a photographic memory type of guy, kind of like Ted Cruz. But I don't think he. I mean, maybe he brings a Cuban aspect to it, but I don't think he brings the mainstream that he's going to need to coalesce an electorate to elect him.
Well, plus he's from Florida, and I don't think he's going to pick anybody from Florida.
No.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't have gone with DeSantis to begin with?
Well, they both live in Florida.
Yeah.
So no. But J.D. Vance, I think, is a strong possibility, along with Tim Scott. I think Tim Scott's.
About you guys.
Typically the vice president historically it's been, well, where do I need help? Which region of the country does the president need help to get elected? Right?
Yeah.
So, all right, I'm weak in the Midwest, so I'm going to pick somebody from the Midwest. Or I'm weak in this area, so I'm going to pick somebody from the East Coast or something. I think Trump looks at it completely differently. And I think...
He is unorthodox in just about everything he does.
Yes, he is. Yeah. Yes, he is. And So I think I don't think he's going to pick anybody based on that, and that's why I think a J.D. Vance or Tim Scott makes sense, since they are from areas that I don't think he's got any trouble with. I think he's going to win Ohio and South Carolina rather easily, but they do bring a lot of other things to the table that I think would benefit his presidency and his candidacy.
What do you think of Vivek Ramaswamy?
I think Vivek's terrific, and he's a possibility.
He's your boy.
He's a possibility, but I think he goes with somebody that's in office now,
Okay.
or somebody that may have just left office, like Governor Bergman.
Somebody that has a little bit more experience.
Yes.
In it.
Yeah.
Who was it that Adam said last week? The general. What's his name?
General Flynn?
Flynn. That's what somebody.
Oh, General Flynn.
Floated
Yeah.
General Flynn.
Yeah.
I always liked General Flynn. I can never remember his name, but
If I had to bet right now, I'd say Scott or Vance. Probably lean towards Scott.
I would say Scott.
Yeah, I would lean towards.
Because I think it shores up the black vote.
Well, I just think
he's
he's
really
a
good.
sharp guy.
He is-
He's
he is-
terrific.
Yeah.
And just, there's certain people when they speak, you can tell they're really speaking from the heart. And
Yeah.
I think for Tim Scott, he really does. I think J.D. Vance does as well. And you look at where they've been, where they've come from, and their resume and their life experience. And I think Trump likes that. I think he likes people with life experience more above all.
Right.
And those two gentlemen have had tremendous and very diverse life experience. So I think for those reasons and more, those are the top two choices. But who knows? I mean, he could come out of nowhere with somebody that nobody's been talking about.
And that wouldn't be surprising.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people have mentioned like a Tulsi Gabbard or somebody like that.
I was going to say, you don't think Elise Stefanik has a hat in the ring there?
Congresswoman Stefanik's tremendous. She just put forward some legislation.
That's why I wanted to rope that in.
Yeah. She. I can tell you this: if she's not VP, I think she'll be offered a high-ranking position in the cabinet. I don't think there's any doubt about that, and she would do a tremendous job, whether she is vice president or somebody in the cabinet. So I appreciate what she does for our country.
Tell us about your initiative you just set forth here.
Yeah, so I put forward legislation to my colleagues on the Saratoga County Board of Supervisors as chairman of that group. It was legislation to rename the Saratoga National Historical Park, as it's currently called.
Which seems so blah.
Yeah, otherwise known as we know it here as the Saratoga Battlefield.
Yeah, that's all. Growing up, that's what it was always
Well,
called.
the funny thing is, so you were talking to me about that. I'm like, I never knew it other than the Saratoga Battlefield. I didn't know it had another name.
Yeah, because, when you travel, next time you go up there, there's directional signs all over the place. There's these brown and white signs. And driving up there one
Does
day.
that say Battlefield?
No. And you're driving up there. And
There was a gun in my head. I would have said it's the Battlefield.
No, it says Saratoga National Historical Park.
Hell.
So I'm driving up there, and I'm looking at these signs, and I'm like, okay, if I didn't know where I was going, would I know where I was going? If I was relying on these signs, not with GPS and everything, we rely less on signs, directional signs, but still. And then when you get there, it says Saratoga National Historical Park. Oh, okay. So what is what is that?
Yeah.
What is it?
Yeah.
Well, Battlefield is a unique identifier.
Sure.
And it explains to anybody who looks it up on DuckDuckGo or sees a sign, or that's the Saratoga Battlefield. Yeah. They understand, people that follow history at all can understand that that's a turning point of the American Revolution.
Absolutely.
Some of the most important battles in our history happened there, right up the street. Yeah. So I think putting Battlefield back into the name makes a lot of sense. It was dropped in 1938 when it became a national.
How did I catch that?
When it became a national park, it was dropped. So hasn't been in the name for a long time, but we all just referred to it.
Yeah,
as
everybody around here has always called it the Battlefield.
Always.
Yeah.
Like I said, I gun to my head. If it was called different, I would have said, "You're wrong."
right?
It's called Saratoga Battlefields.
Because that's what we call it.
That's what we call it. Yeah.
Now we are leading up to our
250th.
250th anniversary. It's a huge initiative of the county. I mean, we're already 2 years into it.
So what is it you guys are planning?
Well, we've been doing events each year recently, in the last couple of years, involving taking a look back in history and trying to highlight the different aspects of the battles themselves and the stories of people that were either directly involved in the battles or were on the periphery, maybe supporting the effort. So these are all stories that we're trying to tell to gear up to 2027 when we hit the 250th anniversary of the battles of Saratoga. That year we're going to have very large scale events, and that will be an international tourism event.
Can you shed some light on what it is you guys are thinking of doing?
Well, we're still in the planning stages, and there's a tremendous amount to get done along those lines. But our plan is to have a very large reenactment.
Oh,
That'll be kind of the center event, the marquee event, if you will, of 2027. But we'll also have many other events each year leading up to 2027. So we have a commission that's been in place for a couple of years. We created a logo. So it's a major marketing effort. And like I said, it's going to be an international tourism event. Now, the rules, the National Park Service rules, dictate that we cannot do a reenactment on the grounds of the park. It's hallowed ground. There are soldiers that lost their lives there, obviously, and they're buried there. It's considered hallowed ground, and so they don't allow activities such as reenactments on the park ground. So it complicates things a little bit. I mean, you first think, well, gee, that would be great to actually... Where it actually happened, we can reenact it. But then again, I understand why
I
they
didn't know there was actually people buried at Saratoga Battlefield.
So what we're going to do is, we're going to secure other properties nearby where reenactment can take place, and so it does complicate things a little bit. It'd be a lot easier if we could do it there, but we'll make it work and follow all the rules and regulations.
Mike, have you ever been to a reenactment?
No, I haven't.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Actually, I went to one. It was a French. It was a American Indian War reenactment up at in Amsterdam. It's just Fort Plain, maybe. They have an Indian museum there, and we went there several years ago. It was pretty cool.
Nice.
Obviously, there was no real explosions or anything, but it was really cool to see the muskets and the uniforms and formations of guys. It wasn't a whole ton of people, but it was pretty cool glimpse as to what the Napoleonic way of fighting.
Yeah.
Totally stupid, but
Amazing.
let's line up in the field in big formations of people and
it's amazing.
be cannon fodder. Crazy.
Yeah.
Actually, I think it was Americans that first invented guerrilla warfare during the Revolution.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Pecking off generals.
what are they? The swamp fox, they call them.
Yeah.
Down in South Carolina, and largely his story was The Patriot. The movie The Patriot was loosely based on that.
Great Mel Gibson movie.
Yeah. Oh, that was a great movie. It was.
Although I don't think there's any Mel Gibson movie that he doesn't charge screaming with blood on his face, wielding some kind of weapon.
You're right.
I think
Freedom,
that's
right?
a standard Mel Gibson scene. But I'm looking forward to that. That's a lot of fun. I love anything history. You and I both know that.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a history buff myself. So
So just to finish that story, because I want to give Congresswoman Stefanik credit. So we passed that resolution of the Board of Supervisors, and just a few weeks later, she called. Her staff was putting together legislation, wanted a quote from me for a press release that they would be putting out there. They engaged with Congressman Tonko, so it's a bipartisan effort with both Congress people sponsoring this legislation. So I would assume it's going to pass, probably in the September time frame. Not really sure. It could be earlier, it could be later, but That's our best guess at this point. So rather exciting, that an idea that started here will hopefully have national ramifications. And I'm hoping I can go down there when they pass it and be a part of it.
Sure.
Fun.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing that. I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
I love stuff like that. That we know somebody that put their name on something like that. That's cool.
I certainly didn't expect to get that type of reaction so quickly.
Yeah.
Well,
but
when it's a good cause, it should.
Yeah, I'm just very, just a lot of people. It's seemingly something so simple, but a lot of people have mentioned it as something that really struck a chord with them, and that's great. That's what we should be doing in office.
Yep.
So
exactly.
Keeping it in the county, what is what projects are coming down the pike, development-wise or economically, whether it be expansion of Global Foundries or anything else that's coming into the area for the county for jobs and growth and economic development?
Well, certainly that's the big one. That's the first one. That's the one that captures all the headlines. Just recently, I was at an event with the Agriculture Commissioner Ball at the Saratoga County Fairgrounds to kind of kick off the fair season. And the fair is coming up this month, so look out for the announcements and the schedules as to when the fair is going to happen.
I'm missing the fair.
Yeah, because
commercial
agriculture is still the #1 industry in our county.
Really?
Yes. You won't see that in the headlines
No.
too often, but it still is. The Global Foundries and those kind of projects are the ones that grab the headlines. But yeah, that's the major one, and we're watching and waiting to see how that's going to progress, because a project of that size has so many ripple effects across multiple communities with regard to infrastructure. So it's a very important one, and so we're watching it closely.
What is the biggest agricultural yield in the county?
Well, just generally, businesses and entities that are tied to agriculture, as an industry, that's still the #1 industry. So we're proud of that, and we want to do everything we can to keep that going.
It's caught me by surprise. I didn't realize that agriculture was so strong.
Yeah, that's our history, that's our roots.
Yeah.
The farming community is still the foundation of many municipalities around Saratoga County.
Is Clifton Park a right-to-farm community?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, and we've permanently preserved 4 farms, and Clifton Park, like so many other municipalities, were covered with farms many years ago, and that's changed.
Exit 9 was nothing but farms at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's changed, but we want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to help our farms thrive in difficult times for them. I mean, let's face it, even in good times, farming is a tough business. So anything that we can do for them to help them thrive and survive and continue to be an important part of our community, we certainly do that, both on the town level in Clifton Park and on the county level as a whole.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Did you have anything else? I know you wrote a bunch of things down.
No, I think we've covered everything I have on my list.
Wow.
Well, he was probably writing lyrics to a new song. I heard you have a new song. don't
I
you?
do.
Yeah.
And you're not going to
Are you gonna play
You're not
it, or-
going to
Come
get me
on.
to sing it, Mr. Barrett.
You're not going to play
because
it?
I heard you were quite the singer yourself.
Well, I try to carry a tune.
He
See?
dabbles.
He dabbles in it. I heard you're a Frank Sinatra-esque type of singer.
I like the standards. So
What's your favorite
Sinatra.
song? What's your favorite song to sing?
Oh boy, there's so many.
So many.
Probably.
I only sing one. My Way by Frank Sinatra.
I love My Way. I do like to sing that.
New York.
And I don't. It's not singing My Way that gives me a lot of joy. It's the reaction that people have to that song.
And I'll have.
I mean,
my
I've been in the middle of singing that song, and people will leave crying. It's incredible. So it's not so much singing that song; it's more the reaction you get from people because it means so much.
Sure.
Yeah, I think it's one of those songs that people think of their dads.
Yeah.
know?
Or their husbands.
yeah.
Or their.
There's actually one song.
We were great. We were free. Had a country that couldn't be beat.
USOB.
We were right till the left. Set our country up.
I can't believe you did that to me.
I didn't want to be you. We were so alive. Started to cry, but
Get the
then
spotlight
remembered
Disco
I.
ball going.
Although Trump in November kick you out on your ass. I have to listen to Biden say things I don't understand.
Come on, sing it, Phil.
I don't need all the wokeness and control every day. Yeah, I can vote the Dems out in November. Can't love my country. I can
It
love
just
my
took a little
country
goading.
again. Can love my country.
He was dying to do
I can
it.
love my
Floodgates open.
You know what?
Democrats.
Next time, I'm gonna get you, my friend. I will get you. Oh my God! And Jay,
Good
you
one, Jay.
suck.
I just had one request, and it made it. How about
Oh
that?
my God! That
You know,
was
you got to be nice to the guest.
Yeah.
You know, the
Oh,
guest
is that-
has
is that
a
what it
requ-
is? Is
Well,
that
the
what
guest,
this is?
the guest has a request, and
Yeah.
you know, you got to follow through. So,
By the way, I'll be here all weekend, and you can find this song on our YouTube channel.
We always accommodate our guests.
oh, that was something.
Oh God, I hate you guys.
No, we got to play that with nothing else going on. Just
Yeah.
full
I think you need to settle down.
you and your full, and we'll get you to lip sync.
Oh, I can sing it. Don't worry.
Yeah,
Yes.
Oh,
there you go.
And control every day. Yeah, I can
Nice.
vote
That should be our
the
new-
Dems out in November. Can love my country. I can love my country again. Can love my country. I can love my country again. Can love my
Come on,
country.
it's a good song.
I
Oh, it
can
is.
love my
It is.
country again.
I
Can love
think
me-
Donald Trump should pick it up.
I think that
I'm
we should
blown
use
away.
that one to exit our show all the time now.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, there you
There
go.
are-
Bumper
our
music.
exit-
Get some
Bumper
bumper music.
music.
There you go.
Oh, now
You know,
sound like-
I worked with Senator Tedisco back in '94 when George Pataki ran for the first time, and wrote a song, "Pataki is a Champ," to the song "Lady is a Tramp."
Pataki
And
is
the
a
guy,
tramp.
the guy that lived down the street from me at the time had a little studio in his basement, and we recorded it. You know, he had the karaoke music in the background.
I didn't want to be you.
Really?
And I ended up singing that at many different events, and I sang it at one event where Mr. Pataki was there, and it was pretty
Okay.
cool.
Really?
Yeah, and who's the guy on the radio at the time? Picked it up. He was on 810. Mike Gallagher.
Mike Gallagher.
He
Yeah.
picked it
I
up
remember
on
Mike
GY.
Gallagher.
He was playing it as bumper music on GY back then. So it worked out great for me.
How did it go?
Great.
Let's hear it. Is that what,
We
Oh,
were so
no, not
alive.
that song.
Yeah, I think that's the way it went. That's why Pataki is a champ, and then I don't know
I mean,
the
No, but the reason why I say it is I listened to Mike Gallagher all the time. I was driving truck in those days.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine. I don't remember that lyric because it's especially the way
It
you
was
sang
catchy.
it. That was
It was
pretty good,
catchy.
actually.
It was catchy. So I
Did
don't
you hear him?
I don't remember all the words. I
I
don't remember all the words, but it was fun. And,
Right, I'm sure you don't.
And I was very young in 1994, so it was kind of cool for me, you know.
Yeah.
Too cool. That's awesome. Well, you know what? Next time, Mr. Barrett. Next time. I'm going to have to make some phone calls here. Got to find somebody to film and, put it on here.
You got it?
But I really appreciate you coming in. I
Yeah,
think
you
it's
bet.
so much fun when you come out and hang out with us, and we can have some good laughs.
Yeah?
Always good. Michael, take us out of here.
I'll always remember today.
This is our
The first time
our
I
special
heard
moment.
the first time I heard the new hit song was today. July 10th, 2024. It's going to be etched in my mind forever. It's fantastic.
Well-
We have a voice coming on here.
A voice.
The voice.
The voice. Yeah. Hold on. Let me.
There we go.
I'll turn the chair. Whatever.
There we go.
Whatever. Take
Well,
us out of here, Michael.
Till we meet again.
Till we meet again.
Thanks, guys.
Oh my God.
you go.
That was good.
That was fun.
He was getting into it too.
You